Hello and welcome to the first round of the Porsche 935 USA Cup with Sim Racing Online. We are set for 60 minutes of racing for round 1. We are at Road America today. We do have an air temperature quite cool at 21.9. Track temperature slightly hotter at 35.3. We're not expecting any wet weather, it should be dry. As I say, we're expecting 60 minutes of racing. There's no mandatory pit stops. Let's have a look at what we're in for. So the series is using the Porsche 935 K3. Lovely Jägermeister layout there. The produced between 1976 and 1981. Two-door coupe is rear engine, rear wheel drive, so it's going to be a bit feisty between 3 litres and 3.3. A twin turbocharged flat 6. Apparently it's a 4-speed manual as well, without a differential. So that should make it a bit slidey. Nice sounding cars from back in the late 70s, early 80s. So, as I said, we're at Road America today. Road America, quite a popular track, still used today. Called America's National Park of Speed, apparently. It currently hosts the IndyCar series, along with the IMSA Sports Car Championship. And it's 14 turns and 6.5 kilometres approximately. Based in Elkhart Lake, in the US, in Wisconsin. And we are set for 60 minutes, as I said. 60 minutes of racing. Drivers are just out doing their practice laps at the moment. So let's have a look at how they're getting on. Let's boot up the driver information so you can see who is who, and I can see who is who. It's going to take a while to get used to some familiar faces in here, but not unfamiliar paint jobs. Unfortunately, a couple of drivers are using the same paint job, so I'm going to have to be very wary of who is on track. We're currently looking at Nick Westy from Black Cat Motorsports. And a newcomer to the series, Bjorn Hagman. I apologise if I get your name wrong. But a newcomer to the series in the Jägermeister, the paint job, which is, I suppose, famous in some respects. Iconic. I'm just adding some titles for other late joiners in the hope that I can get them all displayed correctly. It's normally difficult in the first round to get people to in the right teams and such, but if there's any errors, we'll correct them for round 2. So we are expecting about 8 or 9 drivers tonight. So as you see Bjorn head up the hill, he's currently second at the moment. 2 seconds off the practice pole. As you see, Ed Jones for Bad Voices Racing in 5th currently. So heading through the left and right section up towards, which I find quite tough, the hard braking zone. Down to the last section of the track, so that's turn 12. To the kink of turn 13, and then to the right angle turn of 14. You need to get as a good exit on this turn as possible to draft up the straight. I believe there could be a couple of passing opportunities. Definitely down into turn 1 is one of them. The short straight after turn 3 is possibly another. As we see Rob Milliken behind the steering wheel this time, rather than behind the microphone. for Flying Crowbar Racing. Don't often see Rob Milliken on the track, so it's nice to see him out there. In the nice blue 54 livery. He's currently in 7th place. Taking a trip to the pits. There are no mandatory pit stops, so we are probably expecting people to fuel up and go for the entire 60 minutes. We're unsure in this first round whether tyre wear could become an issue. And we are set for 15 minutes of qualifying at about 6 o'clock. As we see Ed Jones. Looks like he's a cool down lap. Currently 5th place. Over the hill goes Barrett Ericsson for Bad Voices Racing. Currently in 4th place. Ed Jones, his teammate, coming through the very fast left-hander. Looks like there's a slight lift coming through this right-hander. And this could be another passing place up this winding road up to the right-hander of 12, Canada Corner. Slight clink for 13, and then up the hill for Blind Crest. But it should be very, very close racing. We are seeing quite a big spread in lap time, though. Over 60 minutes. Can the faster guys pull out a gap and go off into the distance, or is it going to be a measured approach? I'm sure there's tyre wear or engine wear may become an issue. We've got to be very careful with overdoing the revving of these cars. Ken Jagger currently in 3rd for Bad Voices Racing. As he comes through turn 8, under the bridge for turn 9, through the what's called the carousel corner. He's so eager to get in the throttle out here to have a good launch up into the fast left, or in fact the fast right. Can't even get the left and rights figured out. Not quite full throttle there again. Gonna have to have a short lift, I believe. So Nick Westy currently setting the pace with a 2:01.4. Of course, we don't know whether this is the actual pace or whether people are putting qualifying times in. We normally see a ramp up in pace when suddenly they slap on their qualifying setup with their race qualifying fuel, rather. Let's go on board with Robin Taylor. Under the bridge. Down towards a very sharp braking zone in turn 5. And then up the hill for turn 6. Flying Crest again. It's the fastest of all in sector 1. Slight kink for 7. Take too much curb. Going towards turn 8. Runs a bit wide. And round 9, the carousel. Getting it very, very sideways. Maybe this is an attempt at a qualifying time. So purple in sector 1. Coming up towards the end of sector 1. A slight kink. We'll see what... So it's a green sector for sector 2. Braking zone and up the hill for a slight kink. And then hope to get a launch off the final corner. Up the hill. Slightly wider than he would have like. This is his teammate, Nick Westy. Currently setting the pace in practice. Through that fast right-hand corner. Take as much curb as you dare. Take as much throttle as you dare. Down towards turn 12. Round and up the hill. There's a lot of drivers running quite loose setups, it looks like. That won't pay them back in tyre wear, but we'll see who manages to complete the full race distance on a set of tyres. If indeed that is the strategy tonight, it might be a one-stop race. So we may see a lot of people playing the longer game if they want to try and go the full distance on one set of tyres, but we'll see. And this should probably set the strategy for the rest of the calendar. In fact, if we have a look at the calendar, they are all tracks in the US. So we have Road America for round 1, 2 weeks after that on the 19th of January. It's Portland International Raceway. Then we're going to go to Barber Motorsports Park on the 2nd of February. And then the 4th round will be Laguna Seca. And then we have a 3-week break, 3 or 4 week break for 5th round in Road Atlanta. And then the last round will be Sebring. It should be interesting to see these cars take on the bumps. So it's nice to see us running something a bit more historic. It's usually very modern series in Sim Racing Online, but doing something in the 70s and 80s is much appreciated. I'm hoping there's more of it in the future, as Westy is getting very sideways, seeing what he can get away with the tyre slip angle. Car looking very unstable on the brakes though, nodding its head there. There's a lot of blind crests on this track. A lot of times when you have to have full commitment. Looks like that setup might be a bit pointy on the front end. Whether that will work to Nick's advantage or not. But in the immortal words of Murray Walker, to finish first you have to finish. So in a stable but fast car. As we see Hagman taking another lap under the bridge. Or turn 5 and 6. Through the slight kink of 7. Down the hill. Can run over these curves quite aggressively. Although with this lack of differential in this car, you maybe don't like them too much. It looks like it wags its tail a bit through coming through these long fast sweepers. The tracks coming up, they're very similar in layout and feel. A couple of the tracks in the US do have a few long straights and some blind crests. I'm thinking specifically of Barber Motorsports Park. That might be a bit challenging for these cars. Some high compression areas and light crests. And you've got Laguna Seca, which will be very, very tight and twisty. Seeing all of these cars going through the corkscrew the first time will be a sight to behold. And then you've got the real extremes of Sebring. The bumps. Don't catch anybody out. So you got a bit of runoff at turn 1, just so that you can get out of jail free. I assume that there may be some argy-bargy into turn 1, depending on how Everyone does their start. I believe it is a standing start. There is no formation lap. No rolling start as such. As Robin Taylor is testing the limits of the outside of the track into the final turn. And that remains straight. Slight bit of oversteer coming onto the straight. You want it your wheels in line as much as possible. And then start finish. I mean, it could get very, very close, the drag up to the line, because the line is quite far away from the last turn. So you'll have to watch out on that. As it looks like we are heading to qualifying. So as I say, it should be a 15-minute session. Well, no, it should be a 10-minute session of qualifying. Now we're going to see how fast people can go with their low fuel setups. Who's going to be the first out? It looks like it's Westy that wants to be the first out on track. Clear track ahead. No distractions. I believe that's Ken Jagger following out. So we do have a team championship to play for tonight. And there are two main teams, or two main teams with more than one team member. So we have Bad Voices Racing, which consists of Ken Jagger, Ed Jones and Barrett Erickson. And then you have Black Cat Motorsports, which is Nick Westy and Robin Taylor. And then you have Rob by himself for Flying Crowbar Racing. And then a couple of non-starters tonight, which will be independent runners. So Ken Jagger is possibly going to get a nice tow down the main straight if he can stay with Nick. But we will see if the draft is anything significant. Cars look very slippy. I wonder how warm these tyres are going to be by the end of this lap. Still trying to warm the front tyres. Setting up for the first lap of what will be. We'll probably get 3 or 4 in. Is it 2 minutes per lap? They'll probably get a maximum of 4 by the time they come around. Actually, maybe 3 flying laps. So we've got to do it all in one go. There's no hanging around. Heads up the hill into turn 1. Westy will be the first to put in a lap. Down to turn 1, our braking zone down the hill. 4-wheel drifter out towards the concrete. Up into turn 2 downhill. Track falls away from you, but you've got to get a really good exit onto the straight underneath the cheese bridge, as I call it. Be some good drafting opportunities up this main straight. Can't really call it a straight. It's a kink on the braking zone. We'll watch out for track limits on the edge there, I'd imagine. Into 6. Car still wagging its tail. A lot of oversteer coming through 7. And up to turn 8. So look at the tyres, it seems, and then under the bridge for the carousel corner. Take as much speed as you dare through here. Purple sector, obviously he's the first to do a lap. Lots of oversteer coming through that fast right. Purple in the second sector still. Still unstable under the brakes. Throttle quite early. Come through the slight kink of 13. Heading up to the last turn for 14. Is this going to be a valid lap? He takes a tight line into 14. Runs a little bit wide. This should be the benchmark for everyone to follow. So it was around 2:01 in practice. It's going to be much less than that. So it looked like Nick Westy was running a closed radiator. As we see Bjorn just finishing his lap. He's green in sector 1, green in sector 2, so 2 personal bests. Coming up the hill for 13 and 14. Let's see what kind of lap times he can do. So Nick Westy does do a 2:01.2, slightly faster than the practice times that we saw. See what Bjorn can do over the line. He was second in practice. Looks like this will just be a banker. It's a 2:08. So Barrett Eriksson coming around the final turns. See what kind of lap time he puts in. Nick Westy is not pushing this lap. He has to, I assume, cool the car down a bit. Now, for you unfamiliar with the rules to do with Sim Racing Online, you do need to do a full in-lap, or full out-lap and a full in-lap for qualifying. There is no stopping out on track. If you do stop out on track and get out of the car, that is your qualifying over. Also, be aware the rules covering the race as well. There is some rules set in place about if you accidentally give someone a nudge and spin them round. It is the I was going to say unwritten rule, but it's not the unwritten rule. It is the written rule that you either let the person back past or you take penance with a drive-through. So this won't be a good lap. This is Nick's in lap. So it looks like he's doing an out lap, a fast lap, and an in lap. So at the moment it is Westy, Taylor in second, Eriksson, Jagger just popped up to third, with Eriksson in fourth, Milliken in fifth. Hagman has got some work to do in sixth, as with Ed Jones. So it does look like a lot of them are doing one fast lap. There's no, not more than one. So Eriksson's coming around, he's got 2 personal bests. First and second sector. Currently in 5th place, just rounding out the lap, coming through 13 and 14. And Ken Jang has put in a good time for 4th at the moment. It should be tight between top 5. Although Westy has got a bit of a pace advantage, it seems, but whether he will use that in the race. Slight puff of smoke from either tyres or engine. I believe that must have been a lock-up. So Ken coming through the carousel. Yeah, it doesn't sound like the car's going very fast. It's a low grumble. It doesn't scream. Is that again a lock-up, or is that the signs of the engine complaining about temperature? So up towards the tight right-hand turn. Of 12 up to 13. As Barrett Eriksson's coming up the hill. This must be his in-lap. Cool down lap, because he's way off the pace in sector 1. Do have 3rd place In fact, Hagman has come up to third place. He's put in a more representative time. 3.5 seconds off pole at the moment, with just over 1 minute to go. So we may see some improvements in these last dying seconds of qualifying. So Ericsson's got to be careful here. I believe Bjorn may be on a fast lap. I don't think Barrett Ericsson is on one. He is giving him a lovely tow if Bjorn is on a fast lap. Ken Jagger comes up the hill. Green in sector 1. He does have just over a second to find to get into second to pass Robin Taylor. Down under the Speedville Bridge through the carousel turn. He's keeping quite a tight line now. You probably don't want to get on the less grippy stuff because you'll just be washing wide into the gravel, won't it? Take a while to get out of there, won't it? Nick Westy not really improving, but he does have a pace advantage, so this is for pride if nothing else. Clock has stopped, so everyone on the lap has to finish. So we do have first, second, third and fourth out on the circuit at the moment, with fifth, sixth and seventh deciding that the race is much better to prepare for instead. It's a very interesting way to try and do that turn. I don't think it's the farthest way around. He is 0.1 of a second off his personal best, which is pole at the moment. I don't think that kind of sideway action is going to do very well in the race with tyre wear involved. Again, the car does look very unstable on the brakes. As Westy comes up the hill. See what he did in the final sector. Not quite. As we see his teammate following him home. Again, no real improvement. Slight improvement in lap time, but no improvement in position. And it looks like that was the final effort, as we saw Bjorn just running off the track. Okay, 5 minutes of warm-up will commence, but let's have a look at the starting order. So, for our first round, we have Westy on pole, his teammate just behind in an identical car, which is really going to confuse me. In second, Ken Jagger in third, Bjorn Hagman in fourth. Rob Milliken taking his spell behind the wheel in fifth, Barrett Ericsson in sixth, Ed Jones in seventh. We do have a couple of non-shows today. Hopefully they will turn up for round 2 and beyond, which should be good fun. But let's get back to the track and check out if anyone's doing a warm-up lap. So, depends on your philosophy, whether you want to use warm-up as a race preparation session. Drivers are just listening to the driver briefing at the moment. I wish I could listen in, but I cannot. So 60 minutes of racing in these cars. Could it be a no-stop strategy? Could it be a one-stop strategy? We will have to see. It looks very tight down in the midfield. And we're hoping for a clean run into turn 1 and 2. Drivers do have space to run off the track if the worst happens. But I'd imagine side-by-side racing is encouraged through the first few turns. And Road America does have, I would say, 3 or 4 passing places, mainly on the straights, hard braking zones. If you're very, very brave, you may be able to pass after the kink, turn 11 through 11A, apparently, which is called Kettle Bottoms. Okay, fair enough. Into Canada Corner. But it does look like these cars are very, very unstable on the brakes, obviously depending on what setup you've gone for. But we'll have to see whether setup is going to play a part with maybe the cars might be a bit more stable on their race setup than their qualifying setup. As we see Ed Jones coming out for a practice lap, joined by Rob Milliken and Bjorn Hagman behind. So thankfully some of these paint jobs are quite distinctive, and I do ask that some of the drivers do stick with their paint jobs, so I'm not guessing every single round. But a German car on 6 tracks from the US, it should be a good challenge. Car from 1976 to 1981. Not quite sure how much horsepower this car has got, but it's a 3 to 3.3 litre turbocharged engine. Looks like trail braking is the way to go. So Bjorn is one of our independent runners. He is new to some of the R Factor series. I don't know if he's new to sim racing online in general, but he's new to the R Factor series. So hopefully we can get a few more runners into this. If you like what you see, obviously join yourself. It's open for drivers all the way through the season. As I say, it's going to run from January right through to March. So if you like a historic car on modern tracks, then by all means join us. The more the merrier is what I say. The merrier. So we're just closing out warm-up. And we do have the auto director in force again. Looks like Nick Westy's probably doing some practice starts on the exit of pit lane, because it is going to be a standing start, I believe. Looks like the wheel slip might be a problem. You probably don't want to be doing a practice start right on the racing line though. So you've got to get the balance of revs and slip correct. Possibly bleed out the clutch. It looks like it's not just a case of dropping the clutch and away you go. You may have to feather the throttle or feather the clutch depending on your preference. So it looks like people may have figured it out. Bjorn Hagman is possibly doing the same, or sitting on pit lane waiting for the session to roll over. So 60 minutes of racing we are set for. 60 minutes of racing. What's going to be the strategies? Is it a no stopper or a one stopper, or even is tyre wear going to be so bad that we end up doing more than one pit stop?
Attention grid, will all non-essential personnel leave the grid now?
As we head to the line. Six cars on the main straight of Road America. Now head down into turn 1, dropping down a right hand turn. As we see Nick Westy on pole there. In fact, that's not Nick Westy. I believe that's Robin Taylor. We've missed Robin Taylor. That's a good start from Ken. Those practice starts must have done the trick, and off into turn 1 he goes. It looks like Robin Taylor is at the back there. As Ken gets it all wrong into turn 1. And Nick Westy inherits the lead. Down into turn 2. A bit of a freebie there. Ken had it all sewn up for turn 1. Let's look further back where the pack is. It's like a battle between Rob Milliken and Bjorn Hagman for 3rd and 4th. Milliken's got the inside, he can cover there. As Ken gets it all wrong and Rob follows. That was unfortunate. He picked left, but the car was going left. So Ken goes from hero to 0. And poor old Rob Milliken is left picking up the pieces. So even though Robin Taylor started at the back, he's now up to 3rd. And he is in a new car. So Robin Taylor is chasing Bjorn Hagman in 2nd. Maybe had to do some on-the-fly changes here. Slight running wide of Robin Taylor coming through that first into the sweeper. Down into this right-hand turn up towards Canada corner. Into the last turn of 14. No such dramas. No locking of wheels. Looks like Westy has pulled out a 7-second lead for the first lap. And Ken is off in the background again, finding the race setup a bit slippy. So I'm going to step back towards Barrett Eriksson in 4th. As Ed Jones following in 5th. Whether there are team orders or not, we don't know. There's Nick Westy stonking out towards the end of Sector 1. Second and third is still up for grabs. Robin Taylor getting very close to our newcomer in Hagman. I heard a collision there. I believe that must have been Barrett Eriksson because he's dropped down to 5th. Unfortunately, he must have outbraked himself coming down after the short straight. Let's go back up to the battle for 2nd and 3rd. Around the sweeping right-hander onto the short straight and up to the kink. Really want to be running wide onto the outside of the curb and getting out of shape. Now this is a passing opportunity if you're really brave, really able to get down onto the brakes, but a little mistake. Someone running wide, that's all it's going to take. He's pulled a little bit of gap on Taylor, depending on how you get out of this final corner. Over the main stripe. This is the closest battle on track at the moment. Westy puts in the fastest lap time and he is away. He can cruise with an 8-second lead. We'll have to see how long it's going to take people for pit stops. If there is indeed any pit stops, there may not be. So Taylor takes a look up the inside. Coming down into 3. If we go on board with Robin Taylor. Coming through the Morian sweep. Down to 5. Hard on the brakes. Keeping it well within the lines. Up under the Corvette bridge for 5. 6. Slight kink of 7. Running on the curb on the left. Slight locking of tyres. But he's still within reach of Hagman ahead. So after the heroics of turn 1, Ken Jagger is now down to 6th place. I believe Taylor must have had a disconnection, which means dropped him from 2nd place down to the rear of the field. As we go on board with Taylor, Hagman goes defensive, but it's not enough. I believe Taylor must be passed by turn 1. He's able to take the line. And was that strategy by Hagman? He'd rather follow than be followed. We'll see. But again, are there going to be any pit stops? Is tyre wear going to become a big issue? As Nick Westy puts in another fastest lap of 2:05.0. So slightly slower by a few seconds from qualifying pace. Over the line for another lap with 53 minutes to go. This is the closest battle we can see on track at the moment. So if we nip back to 4th place, we can see Ed Jones being closely followed by his teammate Ericsson. They have swapped positions. I believe that Ericsson did have a problem where it was coming together with a barrier. Don't see any damage on the car. It'll be good for these teammates to work together. They seem like they've got very, very similar pace. So I'm maybe seeing a slight bit of a dent on the left hand or the right hand side of the car, perhaps. Is that just the light? It's probably just the light. But the teammates could probably help each other out here. Good team points for Black Cat Motorsports. They have 1st and 2nd. Then you have Bad Voices Racing in 4th, 5th and 6th. That looks like that was planned there. And Jones letting his teammate by. Maybe he feels that he's a little bit faster. And he can be rear gunner for Ericsson with Ken Jagger following closely behind. In fact, they are all in the same team. So this is for pride only, but some good team points. 4th, 5th and 6th. As we see, Westy has opened up an 11-second lead. Putting in another fastest lap time, 2:04.8. Hagman in 3rd with Taylor in 2nd. Jagger up the rear of this group. So we can see Hagman just up ahead there. He's still within visual range of those 3. And you can see Milliken just bringing up the rear in 7th. We just have to see what strategy these drivers are going to put together. Maybe these drivers at the back are just pacing themselves, but it does look like Barrett Ericsson is catching Hagman. They are 3 seconds apart at the moment. Have a look at the gaps between, so 2.6 seconds And another 1.8 back is Ed Jones. And Ken Jagger 1.3. So if we look at lap times, Nick Westy is running 2:04.8. Robin Taylor is running in the 2:05.5. It does look like Bjorn must have had a little bit of an off because his last lap time was a 2:18. Ericsson is running in the 2:09s. Ed Jones 2:11. Ken Jagger is in the 2:08s. So Ken Jagger can catch up. That's the pace to get with Ericsson. Along with Milliken at the back, running 2:09s the last lap. I'd imagine a lot of these drivers are very new to this car. We don't, as I say, we don't do historic races that often, so very nice car that you can get on workshop. Mod maker Thomas Johansson. Over the line for another lap. Ericsson definitely getting closer. He's now within 1.3 of Hagman. So Hagman's ultimate pace is a 2:07. When he can get it together, get all the sectors together. But maybe the pressure from behind is not working in his favour. He already had to let Taylor by, who is now off into the distance. 48 minutes to go. I'm sure we'll know by half distance if it's going to be pit stop time or not. Who will be the first to test that out? But there doesn't seem to be any particular dramas. There's no locking of tyres. So we go on board with Barrett Ericsson. Down onto the famous Speedville Bridge. Into the carousel. And we have 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th all within the carousel at the same time. A lot of curb on that outside. See Ed Jones just keeping a watching brief on the two ahead. It does seem like Barra is pulling Ed Jones along, staying with this group. It does look like Jagger has dropped off the back a little. It does look like Nick Westy is pitting. I don't know if that is for a very exuberant 15 minutes at the start. So Westy has given up the lead. It's now Taylor in first. Westy has dropped down. Whether or not that was planned to have a very short first stint. Maybe he feels he has the pace to put in a pit stop, whereas the others may feel like they don't need to. So it's now Taylor first, Hagman second, Ericsson third, Jones fourth, Jagger fifth, Milliken in sixth, and Westy comes out 4 seconds behind Milliken in seventh. Does look like Westy has got a pit speed limit penalty. So he took the risk of a pit stop. It looks like he may have sped either on the entry to pit lane or the exit of pit lane. Very interesting. But Taylor now leads with 25 seconds. He has a huge buffer. We saw that pit stop actually dropped Westy down the entire field. Look at Hagman up front, see how he's doing. Through the twisty section, no particular dramas, running too wide. Last lap time was a 2:09.6. I mean, you can do 2:07s, but his pace is dropping a little. So we have second, third, fourth and fifth within the same kind of lap time range. So it's at the moment who makes less mistakes. They come up the hill to start another lap. Perfect drafting opportunity coming up to turn one. You have to be very brave coming up on the inside. Sliding into turn one, it looks like, as we see Rob Milliken just coming onto the start straight in sixth, and that's Nick Westy in the background. Probably still has a penalty to serve. In fact, Nick is coming down the pit lane to serve his penalty. That'll probably be a drive-through. So we'll have to see whether he can claw his way back up from the back. It's an interesting line coming in from down the hill. Running wide onto the concrete. As I said, this car apparently lacks a differential. So I don't think you want to get it too squirrely. As we see Robin Taylor now in the lead. Inherited the lead from his teammate. Putting in lap times of the 2:05 range, so he's definitely got pace to stay there, but is he going to be pitting later on with 43 minutes to go? Milliken in 6th place for Flying Crowbar Racing. And on his merry way. Taylor crosses the line for another lap. That's a 2:05.2. Ericsson still has that orange car to chase. A literal carrot. It's orange coloured. Can't get more obvious than that. And this is Ed Jones going through the final turn of 14. Rob Milliken coming up to the end of the long straight. As we see Ken Jagger out on his own coming up to turn one. I'm sure Ken Jagger probably could have held on to third or second place if it wasn't out breaking himself into turn one. Field has spaced out a little. Robin Taylor is still pushing. He's running wide just before the Speedwheel Bridge. Round the carousel up towards the kink. And Bjorn Hagson still being chased by Barrett Eriksson in third. Robin Taylor comes through sweeping left and right towards the hard braking zone of 12. So Barrett Eriksson has taken part in very many series so far. Particularly the Formula 3.5. And he recently competed in the WEC Championship in McLaren 720. Jon Hagman, I'd say unfortunately. Fortunately, he's a newcomer. Don't have any stats on him so far. Robin Taylor, however, has recently competed in the Super Formula as well. And the WEC, where he was in a Porsche 963. He was in a hypercar. So similar. Has 2 championships so far with the Mini Cooper Series and the Trans Am 2022 Championship. As we see Rob Milliken. This is as we see Ken Jagger having an unfortunate spin. Is that final turn? That is the final turn. Just getting it all crossed up. No dramas coming into the pits though. If we look at Ed Jones. Ed Jones has competed in a very similar series so far. He does a little bit of testing in AMS2, Automobilista 2, some project cars, and recently competed in R-Factor 2 in the Formula Renault 3.5 and the WEC Championship. Championships. He did last year with the Ferrari 355 Challenge, GP3 2018. Historic touring car. The Stock Car Brazil Championship way back in 2018. So we see Barrett Ericsson still chasing Hagman. Who's going to be the first to blink, if at all? As we see Robin Taylor has opened up a 33-second lead. Looks like a little bit of stalemate at the moment. Neither Hagman or Ericsson can get the upper hand as we drop back to Milliken. It does look like Jagger, with that spin, has let Milliken go through and has got to catch up once more. Finding these cars a bit slippy. So Ken Jagger is 1.8 behind Milliken, coming through the sweepers. And Robin Taylor out on his own at the moment. Still in the 205, so no drop off of pace it seems. So into the final turn Ken Jagger goes. Coming up the hill, over the brow of the hill. Down towards turn 1. Hard on the brakes, trying to drift through turn 1. You can see me looking up at the head, just puffing up some dust from running wide. It does look like he's getting a little bit closer. You do see on the timing that Nick Westy is stalking in the background with 9 seconds behind Jagger. So that pit stop and a penalty really did prove costly. This is the closest battle on track at the moment. Jagger trying to chase down Milliken. So Jagger is capable of a 2:08.6. At the moment, the fastest lap time for Rob Milliken is a 2:09.3. So maybe just a matter of time. So we just jump back to this battle that is ongoing between Ericsson and Hagman. Second and third. A little bit of a stalemate at the moment, but Jagger is definitely catching Milliken. So come up to the slight kink, heading onto the back straight. How much throttle do you dare? So up to the turn 12. As you see Ed Jones crossing on the line. Down to turn 1. Ericsson still stalking Hagman. We're nearly to half distance, with no sign of any of the top 5 at least pitting, or even top 6. Slightly wide from Taylor coming out of under the Speedville bridge. Hard braking zone for Ericsson. This was the best lap time of Nick Westy, who is pushing from the rear of the field, 2:04.0. So was it tyres? Was it engine? And we had a speeding penalty to rub it in. So we're heading down the short straight with Ken Jagger in tow. No dramas coming into that hard braking zone. Robin Taylor comes across the stripe to start another lap. Clear track ahead, clear track behind. Jones coming through the sweepers. So Rob, we cut to Rob just as he was a little bit of an excursion there, but not enough to let Jagger get any closer. No dramas coming onto the main straight for Ericsson. Still watching that carrot-coloured car of Hagman as he goes over the main stripe down to turn 1. No apparent waggling of cars on the brakes. It looks like everyone has a car which is quite stable. Even Robin Taylor has probably settled down a little. I mean, when I say settled down, he's still doing lap times of 2:04. So he's found a good balance without the car being out of shape. Looks like you have to make the most of the straight line speed of this car. Slight slip or four-wheel drift. As Ken Jagger slightly locks up the tyres coming into turn 1. And Nick Westy is able to take avoiding action. This lets Westy up to 6th place. Now he has to chase down Rob Milliken for 5th. So we come to 32 minutes to go. Ericsson coming around the carousel. To the short straight, up to the kink of 11. As is Ed Jones coming through the carousel up to the kink. Looks like Hagman is gently pulling away. He's recently put in lap times of a 2:06.5. He is finding some pace in this car. It still may not be able to beat the 2:05s that Taylor is doing. But Ericsson is dropping back into the 2:07s. And in turn, Ed Jones is dropping away from his teammate in 4th. So any sign of Taylor pitting this lap perhaps? Does he feel like he has a pit stop in his pocket? He's 39 seconds ahead in 1st. As Nick Westy is catching Rob Milliken. And he does have a bit of a pace advantage. So we'll see how much of a fight that Milliken puts up. As we come down to turn 1. Black lines from Milliken. I thought he was going to run wide then, but it keeps it all together. I'm not aware of whether you get track limit warnings for running wide out of turn 1. Milliken goes defensive, coming up the straight. Places it in on the right hand side of the track, coming through the kink. Down towards turn 1. As Nick gets on the brakes, way out of shape. It looks like he still hasn't solved the braking issues from qualifying. His car looks all over the place as Milliken makes it easy for him and spins. Robin Taylor still out in the lead now at 41 second lead, so he's pulling out a second a lap. Or maybe 2 or 3 seconds a lap. He has pace. Whether he wants to put in a pit stop at half distance, we will see. 30 minutes remaining. No particular dramas coming down into this turn here. It's turn 5 up to 6 under the bridge. Westy's probably on a bit of a mission, but that car does look very, very unstable on turn in and exit. Have to wonder whether it is overdriving of the car that led to that first pit stop for tyres, perhaps. But we'll see. If no one else is pitting, then it will be Westy that's the only one that's gone in for a supposed pit stop. We don't know if he took tyres or had to fill up with fuel. Maybe he short fueled in the first stint by accident or on purpose. We'll never know. As Taylor drifts onto the grass a little as he brakes for the right-hander. Rob Milliken heading out of turn 1 down the hill towards turn 2. In fact, this is actually labelled as turn 3. Westy coming up the back straight. Up towards 5. Locking the tyres all the way down. No particular dramas for Taylor. So the gap between Hagman and Ericsson is still about 3 seconds. It hasn't really changed an awful lot. They're now both in the 206s, so they are getting faster as track rubbers in, plus probably the knowledge of the car and the track. You can still see the orange car of Hagman just ahead. Still has that carrot to chase. Hagman is an independent runner. This is his first adventure into sim racing online, I believe. As we see, Rob Milliken, Flying Crowbar racing driver, is the only driver in his team for this series. You see Taylor locking up, trying to pull out a gap. Is 40 seconds enough for a pit stop? We'll have to see. Ed Jones coming up under the cheese bridge. Or 4. And then down to hard braking zone of 5. Any signs of Robin Taylor feeling like 44 seconds might be enough for a pit stop? It is a risk coming into the pits. Of course, there's chances that you could get a pit speed penalty. It might take a little longer than you anticipate, so you have to fight back through the field, but you would have the advantage of fresh tyres, of course. Jones in a very solid 4th place at the moment. Around the 2:08 level in lap time. Looks like Hagman is now pushing into the 2:06s. And Ericsson is matching him behind. So Nick Westy still in the 2:04s. He now has his sights set on Ed Jones up ahead. He's a little bit up the road. So we try 25 minutes to go. I don't know whether Westy has enough time to get back onto the podium. It does look like Taylor has things sorted up front. It does look very unstable, that car. So we drop back to third, and Barrett Ericsson still no sign of pitting. This could be just... That is the strategy for this race. No pit stops. That's the best lap time for Nick Westy now, 2:03.4. Really pushing. What might have happened if Robin Taylor took his second place on the grid? As we see Rob Milliken coming down into turn 1. No drama. Nick Westy still pushing in 5th. You have to wonder whether the pit stop was actually serving another penalty. I can't imagine that in the first few laps there would have been track limit penalties or something like that. We'll have to find out after the race. See Milliken on his own. Coming through that right-hander. You see Robin Taylor on his own, down under the bridge, up towards turn 5, and then 6. Westy is within 6 seconds of Jones now. Barrett Ericsson still following in 3rd. Pushing on. So Barrett Ericsson still in the 206s. He's matching Hagman ahead, so he's not gaining anything. He's not losing anything. I was just looking at what Rob Milliken has done recently, racing-wise. He does take part in a little of the Automobilista 2 races. Because Sim Racing Online is setting up Automobilista 2 races in future. He does a lot of the broadcasting for Sim Racing Online. Don't see that he races an awful lot. It's good to see Rob back behind the wheel. So Bill Hagman is still in 2nd. Lap time's 2:06. He's not wavering at all. Very consistent pace for a new driver. Let's hope that we do get some more drivers coming into the series. We are missing a couple of non-starters today, so hopefully they can turn up for round 2, which is in Portland, which may promote a bit more close racing. Long straights at Portland. Very similar to Road America. So Taylor, now with 21 minutes to go, has a 45-second lead. Does he think about pitting? Is 45 seconds enough? So we have Taylor in 1st, Hagman still in 2nd, Ericsson in 3rd, Jones in 4th, with Westy pushing as hard as humanly possible in 5th, only now 3 seconds behind Jones. It does look like that he may catch him before the end, so 4th is on the cards, but getting back on the podium, is that going to be possible? We'll have to see. He's going to have to gain at least 15 seconds in the last 20 minutes, which looks like it may be possible. There's Robin Taylor out on his own, 46 seconds in the lead. Up the main straight now, Ed Jones is in sight. How much of a protest will Jones put up over this 4th place? tyres coming into turn 5 and up under the bridge into turn 6. Jones keeping a very stable line in front, 20 minutes to go. Hard on the brakes down the hill. Looks like Ed Jones locked up, made it easy for Nick, and through he goes, which is a little bit of a shame. Around the carousel, on and off the throttle. Now Westy is setting his sights on third place Ericsson. Let's hope no particular flat spots for Ed Jones. That was quite a big lock-up coming into 5. Let's see him coming up the hill. Robin Taylor coming down the hill towards turn 8. Out of shape, Westy onto the main straight, pushing hard. Gaining 2 seconds a lap. Looks like we will have about 9 laps to go. See Milliken now, after that mistake, is out on his own. Can we see Jagger in the background, just 4 seconds behind? Battle going to be resumed. It still doesn't seem that Robin Taylor wants to risk pitting, or in fact needs to. There's Jones coming down the main straight, or rather the mid straight, if you call it that, down into 5, slightly unstable on the brakes. Looks like a little bit of a handful at the end of the stint. His tyre wear really getting to these drivers now. Braking's becoming a bit more difficult. Robin Taylor coming through turns 2 and 3 down the hill. Slightly wide, it looks like, but not too much. Not too many problems. As we see Nick Westy, the complete opposite. All over the place. On the dirt, on the curbs. As we see Hagman is now in 2:07s. His last lap. I don't know if Ericsson is putting in a final push. He is quite a way away. 7 seconds behind. So still some... everything's not over. Still some battles to be resumed and completed, I suppose. As we see Ed Jones coming up the hill. I thought that was going to be a pit stop just then, but in fact not. Now drop down to 5th place. Westy coming through turn 1. Using all of that concrete on the outside to his advantage. Ericsson has a good podium here. Whether he can keep it, that's another story. He has 11 seconds to Westy behind. 16 minutes to go. Down the main straight. Milliken gets his braking a little bit wrong. Misjusted his braking and didn't quite use all of the track. Yeah, Jones up the hill under the bridge for turn 6. Slightly wide for Robin coming out of turn 1. Looks like there's a little bit of cloud cover. Track temperature has gone up to 42. The air temperature is pretty much staying the same at around 21. And the track is a little hotter, because there are a number of cars running on it. Big black lines coming down into turn 5 there. There's Nick Westy pushing on at the end of the lap. So Taylor now has 48 seconds on second place. Very dominant drive from Taylor. He's pretty much kept his nose clean. Consider he started from the back of the grid. He got a few freebies in on lap 1 and was able to get onto the podium, and then Westy had a pit stop, whether that was for tyres, or whether he had to take some tape off the car, or whether that was for penalties. As Robin Taylor comes through the final turns into the main straight, as Rob Millican comes down into turn 1. Very similar colour cars, nearly on the same part of the track. So if we look at Ericsson, is now 9.7 behind Hagman. I think maybe Ericsson has maybe run out of rubber. Does that give Nick Westy in the final 13 minutes time to close up by 8 seconds? Hagman's still pushing on. He's now up to the leader's pace in 2:05s. So maybe we'll see Hagman being a force to be reckoned with up at the pointy end later on in this championship, or even maybe in the second round, as we head to Portland for the second round in 2 weeks. Maybe a similar track to this, pretty flat. That's probably the only difference. Got very, very similar corners. There's a lot more chicanes at Portland. I'm unsure whether we're going to be using the IndyCar layout with the first chicane or not, but still we have the twisty infield of Portland. Tracks like Laguna Seca and Road Atlanta. Ericsson pushing on, pushing out towards the exit of that turn. It's lucky it's not gravel out there. Ed Jones in a solid 5th place, coming up the main straight. You can hear Nick Westy in the background of. Don't think we'll see him in this camera shot. That's Nick Westy just behind. Still doing 2:04s. 12 minutes to go. Car's still looking very much a handful on the brakes. As we see Taylor, it looks like he's going to be lapping Ken Jagger in the 7th. And Jones coming down the hill towards turn 5. Seems to have been a problem for a lot of drivers coming down into that turn. Hard braking zone. You're not braking in a straight line either. So as Rob Millican comes under the Cheese Bridge up towards turn 5 himself. So you're braking. You can brake in a straight line. You come over the crest and you can brake in a bit of a straight line. Head towards the outside. It looked like Ken made a little bit of a lock up just in front of Taylor, the leader, but he shouldn't make it difficult. As we cut back to Taylor. Cut to Ed Jones finishing out the lap. I imagine the track is very rubbered in. It's nearly 60 minutes of rubber down on the track. Hagman completing another good lap. And down the front straight underneath the Cheese Bridge. Ericsson just behind. Solid drive by Hagman and Ericsson, the remainder of the podium. Unfortunately, 43 seconds adrift of this driver, Robin Taylor. He's now got past Ken Jagger. Put a lap on them. 10 minutes to go. You see Rob Milliken coming up towards turn 1. Let's see how he's braking in down to turn 1. Hagman comes under the Speedville Bridge through the carousel. Up onto the back straight. Taylor running wide, but not as wide as last time. 60 minutes should prove useful. A lot of these drivers are probably just learning this car. So probably may see the pace close up a little in the subsequent rounds. Towards turn 5. There's Nick Westy in 4th. It's all over the road. All over the curb. Distinct difference between the driving and Robin Taylor though. No particular excursions. Coming up towards turn 8. As we see Rob Milliken coming through the carousel. 8 minutes to go. That should be about 4 laps or so, depending on when Robin Taylor comes over the line. I believe it must be about maybe 3 laps. We'll see. Barrett Ericsson coming under the bridge. Can we see the car of Nick Westy only just coming into that camera shot, but not quite. He's still got 5 seconds to find. There's Ed Jones negotiating turn 1, slightly wide. Taylor hasn't really let off the gas. He's consistently in the 205s. So even though he's got a huge lead, he's not content with just settling down and putting in slower lap times. He wants to... That is Nick Westy's engine. Completely on fire. So that pushing earlier has led to an engine going. So too much banging off the limiter perhaps, or in fact too much banging off the red line. And the chase for the podium is over. So we will see Nick Westy drop down the order. He will still score points, but there will be no podium for Westy with an expired Porsche at the side of the track. Got to be careful with these gear changes and how much revs you use. As we see Rob Milliken now in what will be 5th place when all of this shakes out. As we see Hagman just losing a little bit of concentration coming up to turn 1. It does look like the battle is kind of concluded with between 2nd and 3rd. Ericsson has settled for 3rd. Taylor still pushing on. Let's hope they have decided to back it down a little. Maybe they have seen the car of his teammate at the side of the road on fire. Have they decided to back off the revs a little? As we see Ed Jones now coming towards turn 1. Slight lock up of tyres, now in 4th place. Slight error from Hagman in the latter stages of this race. Letting Ericsson get a sniff of 2nd place. Now 3 seconds behind. See Robin Taylor backing it into turn 1. That's slightly off track. Ed Jones doing the same down into 5. Coming up under the bridge for 6. It looks like Robin Taylor is just about to put a lap on Rob Milliken. So as we come to the closing stages, there is a yellow in sector 1, soon cleared. I believe that must have been between Robin Taylor and Rob Milliken. As we see Ken Jagger, keep it together, Ken. Running just off onto the concrete, not very much grip, nor this car likes the bumps very much. As we see the second just going past, and then third. There's not much of a gap. It's only 3.7 seconds. I don't think Hagman can completely let off the gas. 4 minutes to go. As we see Ed Jones coming up the hill to start another lap. You can see Barrett Ericsson just in the distance there. He's not far away for this second place. As we see Rob Milliken now a lap down in 5th. Robin Taylor comes over the hill. So it looks like team points are going to go astray. It looks like Hagman has spun it round enough for Ericsson to overtake. So that second place was up for grabs. Slight mistake, loss of concentration for Hagman. He'll be kicking himself. He only has 3 minutes left in the race. And it's still a good showing. Still on the podium in 3rd, but he'll probably be kicking himself that he'd let that second place go. But still 5 rounds of the championship. Ed Jones in a very solid and very lonely 4th place. And under the bridge into the carousel. So slight pity that slight mistake has led to a swap in positions. It does look like the strategy is no tyres, fueling up to the end. Does look like Jagger is closing in on Milliken at the end of this race. He's only within 1.3 seconds. Keep it together, Ken. Slightly unstable on the brakes. These cars have been a bit slippy. Probably the lack of diff proving a bit difficult for these drivers. Up to the slight kink right-hander. Running a little while, bouncing off the tyres. Carrying a little too much throttle through that corner. As we see Ed Jones coming down into turn 1. And Bjorn Hagman now in 3rd, coming through turn 6. The leader is coming through across the line to start what should be his final lap. It should be everyone's final lap. And it does look like the battle for 5th and 6th is over. I did see on the tracker that Ken Jagger, I think, had another little spin which dropped him back from Milliken. So it seems like that's sorted. So a good solid run from Ericsson. Qualified in about 4th place, I believe. In fact, we can see some of the highest climbers. So Ericsson up 4 places to 2nd place. And Taylor accidentally started on pole. I don't think that is right. He did start at the back because of a disconnection, I believe. Hagman up 1 to 3rd. Jones up 3 places to 4th. So as Robin Taylor comes through the carousel for the final time, through the kink. Milliken similarly not far behind, so he's going to complete his race not long after Taylor. Down to turn 12 for the last time, up to 13. It's been a dominant drive from Taylor. Slight running over the grass, but no real drama. And he's kept it stable. The engine has not blown up. So over the stripe, it will be first round win for Robin Taylor. Indeed it will. Good run from Taylor for Black Cat Motorsports. As we see in the background, it will be Milliken finishing in 5th. As Ken Jagger kind of threw it all away in turn 1, but will come home in 6th place. As we see Barrett Eriksson coming through the final few turns. Kind of gifted that place from Bjorn Hagman, who's still in the background there, but unfortunately that spin cost them. But still, good run for 2nd and 3rd. So Barrett Eriksson going up the hill for the last time to take 2nd place. And newcomer to the series, Puffin Smoke. What a way to come over the line, overheating the engine for the final lap. And there you have it. It looks like everyone is over the line. Jones is the last one to complete his laps. So coming through the final few turns up to turn 12. The last sweepers and over the top of the hill. So good run from Ed Jones. Good solid lap times. No particular drama. And over we go across the stripe to finish the first round at Road America. Wow. What a round. What a 60 minutes of racing we've just had. So, let's have a look at the results. So, we see that Taylor took first with Eriksson in 2nd. 3rd was Hagman. A late spin cost him 2nd place, but 3rd still good. Ed Jones in 4th. Milliken solid drive to 5th. Ken Jagger couldn't quite get to grips with this Porsche. And Nick Westy, unfortunately, blowing his engine and coming home in 7th. So, in 2 weeks, we will be moving to the track of Portland International Raceway. A very similar track to Road America, but a bit flatter, a few more chicanes. Don't want to be bumbling over the curbs too much. But Portland International Raceway on the 19th of January. Then we have Barber Motorsports Park on the 2nd of February. Laguna Seca on the 16th of February. Then we have a 2 to 3 week break for round 5 at Road Atlanta. Then Sebring on the 30th of March. So that was our 60 minutes at Road America today. Hopefully you'll join us next round in Portland. Upcoming things for this particular league, we have next week, next Sunday in fact, we have 25 cars doing battle in the Dallara IR18 2025 Championship. So 25 cars are all going to be racing around Surfers Paradise. So I look forward to that race. That will be broadcast on the Sim Racing Online, the Sim Racing Online YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out. Thank you for the follow. Very much appreciated. To Thomas Johansson. Hopefully I got that right. Actually, the maker of this Porsche mod. Thank you for sharing it with us, Thomas. And hopefully you enjoyed the racing. But for now, thank you for watching, everybody. We'll hopefully see you next week. And join Sim Racing Online for the IndyCars on Sunday, the 12th of January. Have a good rest of your week. And I'll see you later.